Yep. Hello, one and all. Welcome to another episode of Dan Does. Today's somewhat of a palate cleanser episode because I'm sculpting again. This is a pack of Super Sculpey Living Doll. I think it's supposed to read Living Sex Doll. Look at that face. Now before we begin, I need to free the clay, and I'm going to do that with my art shiv. A lot of people have complained that my art shiv doesn't make the shing noise anymore. Well, this channel has changed. I do apologise, we don't do sound effects anymore. Not only have I matured, but I've also managed to skim a day off the editing process, which is nice. Am I the only one looking at that little block there and thinking, I'd like to pop that in my mouth, like a little beige cheese. I know I've not really discussed what I'm doing in this episode. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this living doll, and I don't want to paint the clay. I'm going to use a few washes, but I want to make a flesh tone or skin. I want to make creatures that look like they're made of real flesh with minimal effort. And to do that, I'm going to experiment with this red flower flock stuff. I'm going to sprinkle some of this in, roll it up, mix it up, and I'm hoping that there's a slight translucency to living doll, I believe, the clay. So the red flecks underneath the skin will look like blemishes, whereas the others will look like spots. I'm just trying to get the ratio right, and I'm just hoping it works once it's baked. Hope it doesn't just bleed all over the place. So doing a little bit of an experimentation today. I mean, that looks pretty disgusting already, but let's give it a bake and see if it works. This here is my tiny air fryer that I use in my office. It's a great way of baking clay. It's quicker, and you can do it at lower temperatures because of the efficiency of it. Now I'm learning as I go, same as a lot of you, but I baked this as per the instructions on the packet of 130 for 15 minutes, I think, and that's too much. I decided to lower it. After this first piece, I decided to bake at 90 degrees, although I think there's a clip coming up of me putting it to 100, which is wrong. Anyway, this concoction baked perfectly. Look at that. That looks like horrible, pimply skin. Now, I will say the ratio is too much. I'm going to use less of the flock going forward. But that's what I've learned. And I've got a bit of a cold, can you tell? Anyway, what am I making, you may be asking? Well, one day when I was at work, I started doodling these little creatures on my sweet bags. These are the bags that you put sweets in. I thought, hey, they look good on there. Let's just do some little biro drawings. And I thought, yeah, you know what, right? We get bogged down in lore and functionality of all these things we make. I just want to make something fun with not much meaning. So I'm going to make ugly little creatures that will be equally cute and equally gross. Grotties. They're called grotties. I don't want to hear any more about it, right? I've had enough. It was so long ago, but it's all coming back to me. Start the sculpt with some tin foil, as ever. That's what I used to do. That's what everybody does. Ball of tin foil. We want to save as much clay as possible. This stuff ain't cheap. Gonna use some Sculpey bake and bond, to make sure the clay attaches to the ball of aluminium foil, or alumdinium, as you Americans call it. There, got me a nice ball. These creatures are not, they are 1-to-1 scale, so they are life size. That's my intention. So every feature will be human sized, just like us. And I realised while rolling this thing that I will need to do a craftsman and wear me some gloves, because I was leaving fingerprint evidence everywhere. In the summer, I hate to wear these gloves, but in the winter, hey, more layers the better, am I right? Dudes. I've added 2 little bumps to this thing, but before we get into this, let's have a quick coffee, you and I.
Oh, hi. If you're watching this, you're probably thinking, that Dan, he's a switched on guy. He knows the score. Nothing in there. Well, you know what? That's not true at all. You may know that I have a twin brother. He has a much more successful YouTube channel than mine. I mean, it's warranted. It's a good channel. But I often have feelings of inadequacy, and that's just part of the territory. That's just what happens when you're a twin. In my experience, being a twin is often there's a competitive nature. You constantly have a comparison, and it's not his fault. It's my problem to deal with. Now, thankfully, BetterHelp reached out to me for a paid partnership, which is what I'm going to discuss with you now. Now, when they got in touch, I said I'm not willing to promote anything that I have no idea about, so I have used BetterHelp. I've had several sessions with my therapist, a lovely person, and I'm enjoying it. It is helping a lot. It's good to know that the feelings you feel are not uncommon. That's what I've found. Now, the benefits to BetterHelp is fully online, and you can do a voice call, you can even text, but I like to do video calls. I like to see people's faces when I'm talking to them, despite this and the career I've chosen. You can easily switch therapists if you're not feeling it, and you can switch therapists at no extra cost. Takes hardly any time at all. All of the therapists are well qualified, that is assured. Click the link below if you're interested, betterhelp.com. Dan does is one word. If you're interested in 10% off your first month with BetterHelp. Start fresh any day of the year with BetterHelp. Back to the video. Thanks.
Where was I? Oh, yeah, so I'm going to make some eyes. And these here be some little black doll eyes. Now, you know the creepy little eyes you find on dolls? These are made of glass so they can be baked. Got a big old mix of them here. Pretty cheap. It was on Amazon. There will be links to all the stuff I use in this video down below, should you want to buy the things yourself. Now, having picked the right size for this, suddenly the thing comes alive. It's a living thing with eyeballs. I mean, it's not a pleasant life. This little thing needs to be able to emote. And to emote, it's going to need some brows. So I'm just going to give it some little eyebrows here. It's not going to be able to emote much. I mean, we don't really want it to become too expressive. And the simpler the face, the cuter it is. Now remember, these are GROTTIES, gross cuties. So it's got to be equally gross, equally cute. Using a dental tool, which is great for details. I'm giving it some bags under the eyes, a few wrinkles, some crow's feet. I want there to be a bit of a contradiction here. I want this creature to look young and old at the same time. And once those are done, it's time to give the face its main hole, the main face hole, or you may know it as the mouth. There are other face holes, but I think the mouth is the most important face hole. I'm sure you'll agree. Now, before we go on, the main inspiration for today's video is a guy called Jason, or otherwise known as That's Vile on Instagram. Huge inspiration when it comes to this kind of sculpt. I don't feel like I'm allowed to show many of Jason's actual posts here on YouTube. I feel like it will get me kicked off or something, but please go over to Instagram, check out That's Vile. You won't be disappointed. These here are some resin teeth from Amazon. Very cheap for like 6 sets of these. I've been making my own teeth all this time like a damned fool. When they're like a few quid on Amazon, there is a link below if you would like to get yourself some. I don't think you can bake these. You could probably bake these at a very, very low temperature. But what I like to do is take the tooth, press it in, make an indent, take it out, bake the thing, and then glue the tooth back in afterwards. That's what I find is the safest way to do it. So we've already got this lovely skin tone. Now what I want to do is make it look more like skin with some indents, using this little wire brush to stab loads of tiny little holes where I imagine the hair follicles would come through. Also, I want to use this texture roller, just give it the odd bump. I don't want to do the whole thing with this texture roller. I want, because skin, for the most part, is smooth until you get old and wrinkly, and then it's not. and then it becomes disgusting. Not really. Everyone's beautiful in their own way. This coming from the middle-aged man. Not long left, Dan. Not long left now. Put your feet up. Enjoy what's left. I've checked the analytics. Hardly any old people watch this channel, so it's fine. I've twisted some armature wire to make it stronger, so there's more for it to grip to. Added some foil and some more clay, and I'm making a thumb. And this thumb is particularly gross. And it is, in fact, based on my own thumb. But it's fun to sculpt creases, so old people have their, their benefits. Swings and roundabouts, all that. In my box here, I've got some false nails. Now, I wanted to use as many sort of human-sized vanity items from the pound shop as possible. These nails are from the pound shop. Later on, I use something from the pound shop. Those teeth aren't from the pound shop, but they're all human-sized things, just to give us a scout. Also, here, the one time I want my fingerprint to impress on the clay, and it doesn't. I wanted to give this thing my thumbprint, so that if anyone ever got hold of this thing, they could unlock my phone, but it didn't work very well. See, I told you, I did this one at 100 degrees. I later, after this thumb, took it down to 90. I think that's safer. I want to scuff this nail up to buggery. Scuff it to buggery! Buggery. Doesn't the word buggery mean something? Anyway, because these nails are a crap colour, it was the only ones I could find, I'm having to paint them as well. And I'm going to give them a lovely nicotine-stained, mouldy yellow, undead, I suppose. Undead now look. An off-white to base, a flesh tone for a wash, and then a yellow glaze, and then dab it all off with a bit of cotton bud. I started that in some funny voice and then gave up on the voice. That's my dedication to this bit. Look at them, made 3 of the things. Took a little while. Now I just did this bit here for those of you that have fears of your nails being pulled out by tweezers. Enjoy. Now I could have added a really horrid sound effect in there, but I made my bed. I don't do sound effects anymore. You heard me earlier on. I have cut my nose off to spite my face. That's fine. Anyway, this is my lovely little Arrow Max mini drill thing. I'm going to use this to make holes, and then I'm going to slot these fingers into the head, as you do. Using the cheapest superglue known to man, they only really need to hold them in place before I add the trimmings. I'm going to add some clay around the seam to blend it all into one. Now this is the reason I could hear my voice cracking up about 2 minutes ago. I don't know if you noticed that. Anyway, I'm going to add a little bit to blend it into the main body, and this is the reason I bake everything very low and for not too long, because it's going to get the occasional bakes throughout, and I don't want to burn any one bit in particular, especially the youngest part of the model. Now, it was at this point that I wasn't sure if the seam would be noticeable, because I'm not adding any paint to this, so I'm relying solely on the colour of the clay and the flecks of red fibres and stuff I've got in there. And you know what, with a few creases and a lovely bit of blending, you wouldn't know that it was baked in several pieces. It's come together lovely, even though the skin hanging underneath this thing looks a little bit like ball bags. Am I allowed to say ball bags on YouTube? 'Tis painting time, but we're not painting, we're using washes. I'm going to use a bit of a red wash and a bit of a flesh wash, and that's pretty much all I'm going to use on this thing. That's all I'm going to use on the flesh, or the skin at least. I painted inside the mouth black and I made the tooth look dirty, but aside from that, it's all this mixture of flesh wash and red wash on some of the creases. I looked at my own hand for inspiration. Can anyone smell burnt toast? Now, regulars to the channel, you know me. Not normally a guy for painting tips, but I will say that for this, I made sure I watered down every coat. It was very, very watery, and started with the wateriest of coats, because I wasn't sure how dark I wanted this to be, and then I would gradually build on top of that. That's the only advice I've got for this. This little guy's looking lovely and horrid. I'm very happy with that skin tone now. That looks real to me, if not a little bit disgusting. Brush. Oh, I forgot. There's one more step to this. Honestly, I forgot. I'm going to give this thing some hairy knuckles, but use these bristles from this broom. These broom bristles are designed to take a good old beating. These things don't bend or snap, so I'm going to drill tiny holes in the knuckles, thread these brush hairs into it, super glue, and they should withstand anything, those. I don't think they'll snap. They'll last a lifetime. Maybe. And you know what? With that final step, this grottie is finished. But I'm not going to show you the grottie in full until the very end, because I'm going to make 2 more. While sculpting, I was watching a few horror movies on my old CRT TV here, and if you can name this film, I will be mightily impressed. Very impressed. It's quite obscure. Indeed. This is the next one I'm going to attempt, this little warty boy. Or girl. Warty thing. Just pimply, spotty. Thing is, I gave it 2 eyes. I didn't like the cyclopean look. Cyclops aren't cute. There, somebody had to say it. Right? There's nothing cute about Cyclopses. This thing ended up looking a bit like Not the Mama from Dinosaurs. That was unintentional, I promise. I've added a bit of bacon bond to the back there, because I'm going to add a nice big lump of clay. And then I'm going to make this clay potholed and pimply, and to make decent lumps and bumps and pimples on clay, you need to indent a recess first and then add a ball of clay. If you do it by just adding a ball of clay to the top, you're going to have a very sort of gradient curve out, and it doesn't work as well. It needs to be inset. At least that's what I believe, and it's my right to believe. Now, this unexplained liquid that I'm spreading over this thing with a brush is isopropyl alcohol, just to smooth it all out. I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but use isopropyl alcohol to smooth fingerprints away, and if it's a pimple, and it is, it will smooth the edges of the pimple, make it rounder, make it nicer. Now, some of these pimples have popped. That's the nature of pimples. So I'm going to poke some holes in these, and there's going to be some that have been popped for a while, and they're big sort of open sores. Remember, this thing's cute and gross at the same time. Grottie. These are some wormy limbs here. I think that's a contradiction, wormy limbs. I don't think worms have any limbs. I did see a worm the other day on the way to work. The biggest worm I've seen in a long time. Are worms just as valuable to the planet as bees? I ask you this question. I heard they were quite important, so I made sure I didn't step in any, and it was a chore, I tell you, because there was hundreds. Here is the pimply little critter, ready for some paint. So I did the same as I did in the last thing. See, I'm not going to show you every step that you've seen already. This is just, if I've got any new steps, I'll include them. For example, I should have shown this on the previous build. And I still don't fully show it here. I don't know why. Sometimes I don't know why I don't film things. I don't know what's wrong with you, Dan. Get lost in the art, I suppose. Imagine. Anyway, I used a thin blue fine liner and a thick brown Sharpie. The blue fine liner is to add veins just under the skin, so I'm going to dab it away so it's incredibly faint. And the brown Sharpie, which I don't show for some reason, is to add moles that I'd also dab with my thumb. You'll see them on the final result, but for some reason I don't show myself drawing any moles right here. Drawing moles is fun. This is some Sahara coloured Fimo. It's a very beigey, sandy colour. And speaking of sand, this clay is as dry as a Ritz cracker in the Sahara under a heat lamp, and it's really dry. I managed to find some of the wet stuff at the bottom, as often one does. I've rolled that into like a tube, like a big worm. We're talking about worms. Everything's coming together. It's wonderful. Now, for you nature, wildlife aficionados out there, what do you call a baby worm? That's right, it's a maggot. A maggot is a baby worm. A lot of people don't know that, but it's true. The baby worm is a maggot. That was David Attenborough to my left, confirming that a baby worm is a maggot. I made some maggots to have protruding from this pimply boy's holes. What a sentence. I've also slapped a lot of gloss lacquer on this thing in places. Not all over, just in like the sort of greasier spots. But that's not enough. I want some UV resin leaking yellow pus out of the open sores. Because it's fun. This is a fun thing to do. I know it might look disgusting on your end, but I know I know that it's yellow resin. So I could literally put this thing in my mouth, and it'll be fine. Although I don't think you're supposed to put UV resin in your mouth. Don't put UV resin in your mouth. Don't put any of this stuff in your mouth.
You are the last hope. You must destroy the Overlord. Stop the evolution. Kill or be killed.
Here we go. All right, let's do this. Come on, man.
That looked like an evil Pikachu. On to the third and final creature. I'm going to make a human-sized eyeball to fit to the front of this thing's forehead. I measured it against my own eye as best I could. Now, to do this, I'm using some white clay, Fimo clay, but it's pearlescent. It's a white pearlescent clay, and I think this was the right choice, if I do say so myself. It had a nice eyeball look to it. Once the ball is made, make a little indent where the iris is going to go. Then bake the thing, and then cut the thing in half. We don't need to go pressing this entire eyeball into the little creature. There's no point. It's gone through enough. Now that was incredibly satisfying, I don't mind telling you. Now the best way to cut this eyeball is to do it when it's just after it's been baked. Don't wait too long, don't wait for it to cool down fully, because while it's still warm, still a little bit rubby, still a bit rubbery and flexible and easy to cut. Once pressed into the forehead of this creature, I add some eyelids. What is an eyeball without eyelids? Bloody painful, I can tell you. I have a friend born with no eyelids. Agony all the time. All he does is moan. Can't take him anywhere. His eyes look like two half-sucked gobstoppers that have rolled under the sofa. Lint, dust, everything. With that done, the whole thing is baked, and now it's time to add a bit of a wash. I'm going to do the whole wash process I did on the last two. No need to show you that. Give it 2 teeth. It's got a couple of teeth at the front there. Looks a bit like a hippo. And then I'm going to paint the eyeball. And I based the colour of this eye on my daughter's. She was indifferent to that. I thought, you got lovely coloured eyes, Beth. Let's base them on yours. She said, can I hang up? I'm watching YouTube. So that's that. In the centre of the iris, I've added one of those doll's eyes as the pupil, and then I'm using UV resin to create a dome over the top of both, and I love this process. You have to be very careful that you don't spill the UV resin over the sides, but if you do it bit by bit and cure as you go, it should be pretty easy to build up a lens there. Also make sure it's level. Next step when making an eyeball, at least for me, is use a bit of red wool and untangle it and use the threads for veins. This is tricky, bit of a pain in the butt if I'm honest, but it's worth it. Once the veins are in place, put a layer of UV resin over the entire eye. And now to finish this eye off, down the pound shop aisle, the beauty aisle, I got some false eyelashes. Now I'm not sure whether to give this a natural look or a double layer, a more sort of fuller eyelash look. I spent a good 7-8 days contemplating this and then decided on natural. This thing isn't really the showy type, you know. Natural beauty. Strike a pose. You're a goddess. Now, full transparency, attaching those eyelashes was not that easy. Apparently the eye was slightly bigger than your average eye because the eyelash didn't reach the edge. But it turned out fine in the end with a bit of super glue. Now, one last step on this guy, or gal, or thing, and I'm going to give it a little tuft of blonde hair coming off the top. And to do that, I'm going to use this jute rope stuff. And to attach the hair, I'm going to use Fabri-Tac, which is great for attaching hair to clay models. Once it's glued and it's dried, it's very, very strong, as I show here. Now, while I'm creepily stroking this hair, I would just like to say a big thanks and a big welcome to the brand new patrons. Icky Bickles, Adam Beddoe, Jeff Wilson, Pants Moose, Eric Vaughan, Craft Gal, Adam, Dave Van Dam and Famine Studios. Thank you so much to all of you. You're the reason I continue to do this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you'd like to be a patron, the link is right here. It's as little as £3 a month, but it really does mean the world to me. Also, while I've got you there, if you like the look of these sculpts and would like to own a tiny little sculpture of your own, I've been making these little guys here, these little grotty faces. Now these are either magnets or badges, pin badges. It depends on what the buyer will request, because these are for sale on eBay. I'll pop the link down below if you'd like to purchase one for yourself. They're handmade and there's only a limited run. There's going to be about 20 of these, maybe 30. And on that note, we're at the end of the video here. And it's time for the showcase, and it's also time for me to say thank you for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Here's the showcase.